Hey guys, how's everyone doing? This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and welcome back to Sentinel Reviews. It is finale time. Today, we are looking at the final two episodes of Agatha All Along, which were released together. So today, we will be looking at episode 8, Follow Me, My Friend, to Glory at the End, written by Peter Cameron, and episode 9, Maiden Mother Crone, written by Jack Schaefer and Laura Donnie. Both episodes were directed by Ganja Montero. As always, there is a blanket spoiler warning in place because I do these unscripted. If you do not wish to be spoiled, Agatha All Along streams on Disney+. And this is it. Make or break time. As I was kind of alluding to throughout these reviews, as is often the case with the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows, if this show was going to crash and burn, it was going to be at the finale. So, the question, did it or did it stick the landing? Quite honestly, I think it stuck the landing. This was a really solid set of episodes. I will give my hot take, at least from what I've seen. So if you've seen anything different or you feel differently, feel free to comment below. But from what I've seen, the consensus seems to be both episodes were good, but many people preferred episode 8. Some people even going so far as to say episode 8 should have been the finale. So in that regard, my hot take is episode 9 is the better episode. I'm not going to do an episode ranking like I normally do when I review seasons of stuff. I say that like it's a regular occurrence, and yet the only show I regularly review is Doctor Who. But I will say, episode 7, Death's Hand in Mine, is the best episode of the series. I would say episode 9, Maiden Mother Crone, is the second best. But let's wait a while before we get there. Let's do the recap, sloppy and disorganized as my thoughts are, and we'll talk about it when we get there. So let's start with episode 8. After Lilia's sacrifice, real quick, by the way, despite what I said yesterday, it is confirmed in this episode that Lilia killed all 7 members of the Salem 7. And now that we're at the end, I feel like the Salem 7 plotline was kind of needlessly tacked on. Like, obviously, it was important for a reason, for Lilia's sacrifice. But the Salem 7 plotline feels like an overcorrection from WandaVision, because this is the same creative team that did WandaVision. The common criticism of WandaVision, of course, was that WandaVision did not need an antagonist, and having a major antagonist driving the plot kind of derailed what that series was doing. So the entire Salem 7 plotline in Agatha All Along feels like an overcorrection from that. Like, the series wanted, or was probably required, to have a villain or an antagonist, but the creatives involved in the show didn't want to create that same mistake, to have this personal character journey derailed by an outside force. So a lot of the time, the Salem 7 stuff, especially with how infrequent it is to the series, feels really tacked on. And, I just wanted to get that out of the way because it's not going to be brought up anywhere else, because again, it is revealed that at the start of this episode, that episode 7 ended that plotline completely. Anyway, Agatha separates from the remaining members of our coven are Billy, Jen, and Agatha. Agatha separates from them for a little bit to catch up with Rio, Death. Fair warning, I am probably going to flip-flop constantly between calling her Rio and Death, without even realizing I'm doing it. And we kind of get what Rio's deal has been. Well, part of it, because, again, from episode 1, she seemed to want to kill Agatha, and in part, it seems, kind of like that plotline from the comics, that, to be with Death, you cannot be alive. But we get more to it, because Rio is after Billy. What happened is, of course, Billy, at the end of WandaVision, with the collapse of Westview, or Wanda's reality of Westview, was supposed to die. but his soul instead found Billy's body. Billy Maximoff's soul found Billy Kaplan's body. I hope this is the last time I have to bring up the two characters independently, because that's going to be confusing. And, of course, Rio, as Death, sees that as an affront to the natural order, because that's her job. And she knows what Billy wants. Billy wants to find Tommy. But Rio wants to make sure that she can claim Billy before Tommy is given a body as well. And Agatha sort of picks up on, Billy has to go to Rio willingly. Because if Billy dies any other way and he doesn't, willingly give himself up, something about because of the nature of how he came into Billy's body, it's never really elaborated on. That is one of my critiques with this series. There are a lot of these plot lines that just the series does not bother elaborating on. Like, I brought this up with Alice's death. But anyway, because of the nature of what happened to Billy, him reincarnating into a new body, if he doesn't go to Rio willingly, when he dies, he's going to reincarnate again. Not true reincarnation, it's the easiest thing to call it. So Agatha strikes up a deal with Rio. She says she will convince Billy to go to Rio willingly. And in return, she never wants to see Rio again. Like, it is very clear, whatever happened, and we are getting to that, that is a huge part of episode 9. Whatever happened between them, Agatha hates Rio for the part she played in it. And Catherine Hahn and Aubrey Plaza are both amazing in this scene because, you just feel the venom and the fury coming from Agatha. And you see and feel how heartbroken Rio is at the way Agatha says, I never want to see you again. When I die, I don't want you to claim me. I will move on. I want nothing to do with you anymore. And then, of course, everyone meets up, and we get to our last trial. The last trial feels really half-baked. And again, when we get to the end of the episode and go into episode 9, there is a reason for that I didn't think about until sitting down to film this video. But there is a reason why this trial feels so undercooked. But it is interesting because this is supposed to be the Green Witch's trial. And according to Jen, the Green Witch is, responsible for sort of the life, practices magic based on the life cycle, birth, death, decay, rebirth. So, Rio, as Death, of course, is the original Green Witch. The problem is this trial doesn't really cater to the Green Witch in any specific way, and given some of the major plot stuff that happens here, this whole thing just feels really arbitrary. I will say, too, just to note here, stick a pin in it, we'll get to it when we talk about the reveal of this episode. When Rio leaves the Witch's Road, she does so by seemingly cutting a hole into, the air, and it's kind of revealed the background is like tarp or some kind of material, almost like a set, almost like a stage, and she just climbs through it. Again, we're building up to a reveal here. So anyway, the last trial takes place in a morgue, and here I will skip right to it again, just to how arbitrary and unnecessary this trial feels. Agatha completes it by making something grow. She's been wearing this brooch the entire time. The brooch had a lock of her son, Nicholas Scratch's hair. It also seemed to have like a dandelion seed or something in it. When she makes it grow, she completes the trial. But at this stage as well, Jen and Billy both get what they wanted from the Witch's Road, and when they get what they wanted, they both leave, leaving Agatha alone to complete this trial. As we know, what Jen has wanted was she wanted her powers unbound. She wanted to find the person who sealed her magic, and she wanted to unseal her magic. And it is revealed that Agatha was the one who indirectly sealed her. Basically, she sold her talents to some kind of witch hunter or something in exchange for her own life. So Jen is able to confront Agatha with a spell to break the seal on her powers. And the fact that Agatha is the one who sealed Jen just feels very convenient. Like, it's one of those things that feels like, okay, we're wrapping up. We need to end this plot line. Let's do it in the quickest way possible. And then we get the next big thing. What Billy wanted from the road was to find Tommy, his brother. And Agatha, and we kind of learned that the reason Billy could sense Tommy but didn't know where he was is because Billy was holding on to his soul. So much in the way he found Billy's body, Agatha helps Billy guide Tommy to a boy that's dying. And, you know, to put his soul in that body as well. And this is a really brutal scene. It's some of Joe Locke's best acting. Joe Locke gets a lot of really good material in these final 2 episodes, and this is one of the standout scenes for him, because when he finds a vessel, he sees what's going on, this horrible prank being done to this boy, and he begins to worry. Am I killing this boy so my brother can live? This is not the last time Billy will have this crisis. But basically, being both given what they wanted, Jen and Billy seemingly magically leave the trial, leave the road, leaving Agatha to complete the trial herself, and leave the road and come out in her house. And interestingly, Agatha didn't get what she wanted from the road. She did not get her powers back, which of course leads to her confrontation with Death. Death is furious. Aubrey Plaza, it finally caught on to me what Aubrey Plaza was doing here. She's been a delight in the episodes she showed up in, but you know, she's been chewing the scenery the entire time, and she is chewing the scenery here in the climax. But the entire time she's been doing it, she has been so intense. Like, she, you know, despite being hammy, she is still absolutely menacing. So, you know, because she did not get Billy, Rio tries to take Agatha instead, leading to our big Marvel fight. This is a really well done fight, I will say. Billy shows up in the Wiccan costume, having gotten some degree of control over his powers, and he gives his power to Agatha. And luckily, unlike Alice, Agatha is able to, once her power is restored, Agatha is able to cut the spell off before she hurts Billy. And, you know, again, it's a decent fight. Probably one of the better fights we've seen in a while, even though we don't really see it. We get a lot of it from Billy's perspective, and he gets knocked into a greenhouse at one point and doesn't see it. And then Agatha sacrifices herself. You know, when it seems like she is about to give Rio Billy, she instead goes to Rio and kisses her. And the act kills her. At that point, Rio releases Billy. He's free to go. And then we get the ending. Like, thank God these 2 episodes aired together, because I would have been on the edge of my seat for another week waiting to see how this was revealed. First of all, we get our first fun little nod. That really cool visual end credits sequence, that was all in Billy's room. That entire sequence was Billy's room, which was really cool. But then we get the other big twist. You know, and it's replayed in a montage of scenes from previous episodes. Agatha saying all these things like, the road doesn't exist, or you are so much like your mother. You and your mother have the same tell. It suits you. Oh, if you weren't a Maximoff, none of this would be this dramatic. Billy, like his mother, has reality warping powers. And from his desires, from his dreams, whatever you want to call it, he created the Witch's Road. And that leads us into episode 9. A lot of episode 9 is a more in-depth look at Agatha's backstory. Like, we got a bit of it in WandaVision and previously, like how Agatha's coven, led by her mother, tried to kill her, but Agatha's absorption magic instead killed them. We got Agatha with the Darkhold. This is a much deeper look at Agatha's backstory and really what happened with Nicholas Scratch. So it turns out Nicholas was supposed to die in childbirth, but Agatha made a deal with Rio for more time with him. And then, we see a montage of them growing up throughout, of Nicholas growing up into a young boy. And Agatha obviously very clearly devotes him. But as they travel the world, Agatha keeps killing covens of witches. This is never elaborated on. I'm assuming this was around the time Agatha had the Darkhold and she was trying to get the power to wield it. But also, I keep thinking back to episode 4, the episode with Alice's trial, and Rio has that line, "You get your power, I get my bodies." I think, again, it's never properly established well. Agatha and Rio probably had some kind of agreement that as long as, Agatha could kill other witches and, give them to Rio, she would spare Nicholas. I'm assuming that's the case because at some point, during their travels, Nicholas stops Agatha from killing another coven and he says, "We can kill more witches tomorrow." But then that night while they're sleeping, he wakes up and Rio takes him. And Agatha wakes up the next morning to realize what has happened. Again, this is all inference because, again, it's never explained well. If it's visual storytelling, it's really well done, but it's just, I don't think it was established well enough what was going on here. And Catherine Hahn is just giving an amazing performance here. Catherine Hahn, there has been phenomenal performances throughout this series, like Joe Locke, Patti LuPone, especially Patti LuPone, Sashir Zamata, Alion Aubrey Plaza. But even with these great performances, Catherine Hahn carries this series. And we get our other big reveal as kind of a child's nursery rhyme, a fun little song to sing as they travel. Nicholas came up with the Ballad of the Witch's Road. And episode 9 further cements the twist about Billy creating the Witch's Road. The road never existed. The entire time, it was Agatha luring covens of witches in so she could kill them. And I want to pause here and bring this up again. I don't remember if I brought this up in my videos, because I've talked about this in Discord groups and with friends as well. When the Agatha Harkness series was first announced, while it was in development, the show kept getting renamed. Like at one point, I think it was just called Agatha Harkness. At one point, it was called House of Harkness, The Darkhold Diaries, Coven of Chaos. I actually felt Coven of Chaos was the stronger name. Episode 9 really cements, again, besides reasons of meme, why this series is called Agatha All Along. So, interestingly, the entire series took place in Agatha's basement. Everyone is buried there. And furthermore, more importantly, Agatha appears as a ghost to Billy. And when Billy tries to banish her, we get this really pivotal scene that really cements what is going on with Agatha Harkness, at least for me. He's casting a spell to try and banish her. And he brings up, if you move on to the next life, you can be with your son. Why won't you die? And Agatha blurts out, "Because I can't face him." And this is really where it stuck to me, what was going on with Agatha, because she has had these vulnerable moments. She has had these moments of caring about the other witches in her coven. But, she always reverts back to who she is, very snarky, very sarcastic, very uncaring. And to make a comparison here, I see Agatha Harkness as a modern day Angelique Bouchard from Dark Shadows. Angelique was one of the main antagonists of that series. She was a witch. She was responsible for a lot of major events. But she is capable of, and like Angelique, Agatha is capable of being a good person. redemption is not beyond her. But, she has the capacity to do good. But when things get tough, or when she's presented with a challenge, she will revert to what she knows in a heartbeat because it's easier for her. And I think, with the ending of this series, we get sort of a hint that Agatha may finally want to work on that and redeem herself for real, because the episode ends with her and Billy deciding to go and look for his brother, to go look for Tommy. And that's where the episode ends. We also get, again, just a really good scene from Joe Locke, realizing that since he is the one who made the Witch's Road, he killed Sharon, Alice, and Lilia. And, Agatha, of course, tries to calm him down from that, saying, well, technically I killed Alice. Lilia killed herself, but, and sadly, it's not a moment that lasts. Like, a moment that big and weighty clearly needed more time, and the episode and the series were ending, so we didn't get that. It'll be interesting to see what the MCU does with Billy and Agatha going forward. I've heard people speculating that with Billy's arrival in the MCU, we're gonna start building up to the Young Avengers. So we'll see what happens there, but just because there's been some really interesting things with Billy, the fact that he has done terrible things, but he seems to be really easily convinced that it's not his fault. No, sorry, I'm going to rephrase that because I realized what I wanted to say. He seems to be much more drawn to Agatha as a mother figure and as a mentor figure, despite the events of WandaVision, because he does start remembering the events of WandaVision. And he seems to reject the idea of Wanda being his mother. Like, in one episode, I forget the context of it at this very moment, but Agatha, refers to Wanda as his mom, and Billy says, I have a mom, referring to Mrs. Kaplan. So again, it's interesting how he is drawn to Agatha and rejects Wanda as his mother. And similarly too, this is what I wanted to talk about with Agatha. So one of my big problems, and I'm going to make this comparison, with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was the treatment of Wanda. Like, Wanda's arc in that movie feels like, oh, let's just do WandaVision again, but without nuance, and let's just do the grief and trauma equals evil trope. Which, as we keep doing it, it's a trope I'm just getting increasingly tired of. But, because, that's not how people are. Like, this is the whole thing I'm not getting into. It's a trope that keeps going on, and it's a trope I'm just getting tired of. So in that regard, Agatha Harkness is a bad trope done well, because she also, especially with this episode, embodies the grief and trauma equals evil trope, but it's doing it in a way that works much better than it's normally done, because when that big moment happens, the grief and trauma making someone evil, it's usually a very sudden heel turn. And with Agatha, we've seen that, with Nicholas's death and everything that's happened since, this has had time to build up. It was done as a montage, but she has had the centuries and the time to build this up, to let this seriously affect her and influence her. And also, in a way that's done well, whereas other times the grief and trauma equals evil trope isn't, she's not irredeemably evil. Because again, you see this too, with the grief and trauma equals evil trope. A villain created by this trope does unspeakable, horrendous things, unforgivable things. And yes, Agatha does, but, she, like I said, we've had these moments throughout the series of Agatha, being softer, being gentler. Like, again, the capacity to do good is not lost on her. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this series. This is one of the best things the MCU has done. It is one of the best things about Phase 5. And honestly, I will say it is probably the best Disney Plus Marvel show. But those are just my thoughts. Do you have any of your own, either on the finale or on the series itself as a whole? Please start a conversation in the comments below. And remember to like, comment, subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe to get notifications when I upload. In the description box below, you'll find a link to my socials where you can follow me and get updates on the channel. This is Sir Jedi Sentinel, and I'll see you guys next time.